Hey everybody, Arnaldo Wolfman here of Gear It First. Behind me is the PreSonus Air15 and the Air-18S sub. Now these guys made their big debut at the DJ Expo show in Atlantic City, and well, I've been torture testing them. It was really interesting because a lot of people were really fascinated with the PreSonus. If you guys are familiar with the brand, you know they do some incredible soundboards, and this is their entrance into the speaker world. And there's a few things that they did that I absolutely love, and I think you will too. Now, I have to start this review before we say anything else, that these are not the loudest speakers on the market. PreSonus never even claimed that. And if you look at them on paper, you may be slightly underwhelmed. I'm not gonna lie, I was. Still gave them a try, still torture tested them, including at a homecoming. I gotta tell you, these things are awesome. But let's talk about the good, the bad, the ugly here at Gear It First. Now, the first thing you may be asking is, Arnaldo, what's the wattage? And if so, you must be new to Gear It First because we don't give a crap about that. Plain and simple. What does wattage matter when volume is what's important? What is the output? And if you don't understand what I mean by that, make sure that you follow my video that's called Why Wattage Doesn't Matter. It simply doesn't. What you do need to know is that one 20 amp circuit was able to run two of the subs and two of the tops. Pretty cool. I still like to keep things separate, but we know that that's possible. If you look at the specs on paper, it says that this is 124 dB and this is 129. And you may think, that's really not that good. I mean, it is, when you really think about how much volume that is, especially in your face. But still, there's louder speakers out there. So where does the PreSonus fit in? Well, the most important thing, and the very first thing that you will notice about first of all, the sub, is that this sucker is lightweight. Now, I've mentioned this in other videos before that you get to choose two out of three things when it comes to a subwoofer. Lightweight, affordable, and ridiculously loud. Now, at 129, this is not a ridiculously loud sub. But what it is a nice, hard-hitting sub that gives you great bottom end and is super lightweight. As a matter of fact, two of these guys will fit in a car, which is pretty impressive. Now, it depends on what kind of car you have, but it does fit in the car, which is really nice to have. I've been able to fit two of these, plus two of the 15s in a sedan, and that's pretty damn good. Right out of the gate, subwoofer, loved it. You have the casters, they do include the casters with it, and it's not just two, it is 4 casters, and it rolls super smoothly. The overall design, really nice and well made. Even the handles have a nice rubber coating on them, which you don't see in a lot of subs. So when you're lifting them, they're not hurting your fingers, or it just feels horrible. There's a couple of subs out there that we lift and it's like, oh, I hate them. This is nice. The only caveat that I have to this, that I'm gonna nitpick, is that when you put the speaker on top of the sub, it doesn't use a regular pole. Like the ones that you can just literally put out of a tripod. It uses the one that you screw in. Now, I'll be very upfront and tell you that the ones you screw in is better altogether. You're gonna have a much sturdier connection, and you're not gonna have a pole that vibrates or sings. But believe me, it caught me by surprise when I didn't think about that, and I went to go stick a pole in there. I'm like, oh, it's one of the ones you gotta screw in. So just kind of keep that in mind in case you do wanna put your tops over your subs. But overall, it's well built. It does have the little cups in here in case you wanna stack one sub on top of the other. And even when the bass is hitting hard, you don't have to worry about the casters vibrating or going like crazy. The casters are solid, they're well built, and there's no loose metal parts. This is really important because the last thing you want to hear when the bass is hitting is brrrr the whole time. Now let's look at the Air15. And there are other models such as the Air12 and the Air10. They're all pretty much built identical. Let's talk about the good. This is a sexy looking speaker. You got these beautiful sleek curves inward over here, and you've got a really nice DSP on the back, which we'll go over in just a second. You've got rubber feet here in case you want to use it as a monitor, and you have these beautiful, I gotta tell you, I'm really happy with PreSonus on this one. rubber handles, so it doesn't hurt when you're lifting your speaker out. Now you're going to notice right away that this only has handle on one side. There is one on the top, and that's it. That's kind of annoying, but these are lightweight enough that it's really not an issue. And of course you have your rigging holes right here. So I believe this is an M8 and as well in the top, so you can fly the speakers if you want to. Fly points. I don't know why I said rigging holes, but you know what? It's the same thing. Okay, now continuing on here. One of the things that a lot of speakers have now is they have two holes, right? So you have your straight up, and then you've got your 7.5-degree mount. I can't tell you how many times I send speakers out with people, whether it's a rental or even a newbie, and they put it in the wrong hole, and then you gotta lift it up. Okay, it's not a big deal, but it's kind of an inconvenience. This is pretty cool. On this guy here, you just push the button, and you can angle it. Now that's pretty cool. Now the bad. This is not the strongest plastic in the world. You can see there's quite a few scuff marks and everything. Now to be fair, it did roll off the back of a U-Haul, but it could be stronger plastic. So make sure that you do not skimp out on a speaker case if you are getting one of these speakers. Now, on the inside, this amp is magical. And maybe I'm saying this because I do car audio, but with your average car audio system, you've got multiple kinds of amps, but it really comes down to two classes. You've got Class D, and all of us know about Class D because it gives you an insane amount of power with a low power draw. They're super efficient. What's the catch about Class D? Well, they don't sound as good as Class AB. But the problem with Class AB is that they're not as efficient as a Class D. So because of that, almost every speaker manufacturer uses a Class D amp. But that also means that your highs and your mids may not be as crisp as you would get with a Class AB. Now in the car audio world, for years, we have bi-amped everything. We'll use a Class D monoblock, which means one output, usually down to 2 or even 1 ohm, into our subs. And then we'll have a much higher quality Class AB to go to the highs and mids. Why this hasn't been a thing in the pro audio world for powered speakers is beyond me. And PreSonus must have thought the same, because that's exactly what they did. Inside this magical cabinet of goodness, you have a Class D amp pushing your woofer and a Class AB pushing your highs and your mids. And the result is just a beautiful, sweet sound. Roll off from one to the other, it just sounds very natural, even at higher volumes. So this is the back of the Air-18S. You've got 2 inputs, 2 outputs. Pretty simple. So I had it at +5 and I cranked the hell out of it. I did not get the limit light on +5, even at higher volumes, and somehow, I don't know if one of my DJs didn't know what they were doing or if somebody went in the back and messed it. By the end of the night, this was a +10 and they survived. I mean, they hit, they take abuse. It's got a good limiter on it, but let's go ahead and go into the DSP and see what we've got. First, you have your mode, and you've got 2 modes, and I love this. You have your normal and Mo bass. I'm not making this up. It literally says MO''bass, Mo bass. Pretty sure we all know what that means. Locate is your location, and you actually have 3 different options. So we've got normal, you've got your cardioid, and if you don't know what cardioid means, it means that if we've got, let's say, 2 of these and we get 1 more, we flip one of these the other way, turn it on cardioid mode, it creates a cardioid pattern. So what'll happen is if you're on the stage, the bass isn't rattling you as much, it almost cancels it out. It's a real form of like witchcraft, really. And because you don't have that bass going behind you, it's also not bouncing off that back wall and canceling bass out. In short, you may even get better bass or louder bass by having one of your subs in cardioid mode. And the last mode is Endfire. And this literally is exactly what it says. If you've got 2 or more of these subs, you can put them together and create an Endfire array. Next, we have our delay. And the delay is done by feet. Our polarity, you can do normal, reverse it, and you can cross over your sub. And then we can set our crossover frequency. We've got 70, 80, 120, 150, and then you can even match it with the crossover frequency for the tops. So you know, most speakers, when you set your crossover on the top, it'll tell you to match it with a sub. This is backwards. This one, you match the sub with the crossover frequency of the actual top. So we would set it for the Air-15. Now the DSP on the Air-15 is very similar in terms of build quality to the Air-18S. Before we go over the DSP, just take a look here. We've got our mic line 1, mic line 2. You've got auxiliary in through 1/8" port and mix out. So when you look at the DSP, it tells you your level 0. You can go all the way down to 80 and then mute, or +10. And where it says 0 dB, your limit light. So that'll change from 0 or whatever the incoming volume is. It'll change to limit. I keep making the joke that I don't think there's a limit light in this because I pushed the heck out of these things and I could not get the limit light to go on. So despite the fact that it's at only 124 dB, I cranked it. I cranked it loud, and I cranked it loud enough that the school felt it was loud, and the limit light never went on. So I gotta tell you, that was a pleasant surprise. Now as we go in here, our first thing is the mode buttons, and you've got a few different ones. We have the DJ mode. This is pretty much the default, and they made this as for standard music playback. Our front of house, and the manual literally says to use it for front of house use. I have no idea what that means. I mean, I know what front of house means, but I don't know how it really shapes the sound. You can tell there's a difference, but between the two, I prefer DJ. Then you have your enhance. I'll go over that one in just a moment. Our monitor, that's if you're going to use it as a stage floor monitor use. And then you have your speech, and pretty much this changes the EQ so it accentuates speech. This is where if you're not playing really music, you definitely want to use that, and it really does make a difference. Let's go to the enhance. Enhance was my absolute favorite one. It gave a much, much warmer sound. If you saw my live stream on these, I talked about how the highs were very pronounced, and I'm not a fan of pronounced highs, but going into the enhance, it rolled that off. It blended them nicely with the mids and the lows. It was a nice, rich, warm sound. It literally made it feel like a wooden cabinet, as opposed to, I think, the plastic or whatever it's made out of. So when you use these, go with the enhance. You'll like that better. Our location, we can do stand, suspension, or bracket. We'll have them on stand. And now we have our treble and bass. And you'll see there's a -8 on bass. I'll discuss that in just a moment. And our LED on. Then of course we have, that's the front LED. Then we've got our brightness and contrast. We can do our system reset, and there's system info, which doesn't tell you anything but the firmware. So you'll notice that I have it at -8. And the reason for that is because there is no crossover option, meaning I can't just cut off the bass frequency at, let's say, 100 and let the sub go from there. I found that really interesting, and when I asked PreSonus about that, they said that basically it crosses over at the sub. The crossover's on the sub, and you can use the presets to match the air tops, or you can use a variable low pass filter to dial in your crossover point. And while that's great if you're gonna match your tops with the PreSonus sub, if I wanna use the Air-15s with another sub, then that's not necessarily going to sound as great if I had that crossover option on the speaker itself. That was a real big disappointment, but I went ahead and tried it, and what I did is I cut down the bass down to -8, and I just listened to the sub real carefully till I had those frequencies sounding good together, and it sounded great. But it would be nice to have an HPF button, a high pass filter. So now let's get to the final nitty-gritty of it, right? We've talked about the DSP, we've talked about the design, we've talked about the build, we've talked about the good, the bad, what I like, what I don't like about it. But how did it work? Well, we used it for a couple private events, and of course it did great. Really nice sound out of it. Obviously the sub played beautifully with the top. It sounded great. Then we did a school dance with it. It was a homecoming. You can see some of the video footage there, and I wanted to beat the piss out of this sub. And I cranked it, and I really couldn't get it to peak, so I guess that's a good thing. Or maybe it doesn't tell me. I don't know, but I could not get it to peak or give me a warning light or anything. But I pushed it and pushed it and pushed it, and it sounded great. Now what I did is I had these guys on speakers, and then I had the subs coupled together towards the back wall. Gave me great sound. The next two homecomings that we did, these were used outdoors. And students outside, for this was a 2 dance floor setup, it went anywhere from 300 to 500 students, and the students told me that it sounded great. The teacher said it sounded great. There wasn't a drop off in volume or anything like that. And most importantly, it was raining. Now these guys didn't get wet, luckily, because we were underneath the cover, but even with the high humidity that is Florida, because yay, it did not affect the sound. We didn't have, where it started getting too hot and shut down, because it was nasty and muggy out there. And even when my DJ was playing these loud the whole time, no thermal shutdown. So that's awesome. It's a good sound. I think you like it. Most importantly, if you want well-rounded sub of having 2 15s or 12s and a sub or 2, and you don't have a big vehicle, you can put these in a car. So I gotta put a really big asterisk on it'll fit in your car. Because if you buy the 2 15s and the 2 18s and you try to put it in a smart car, and then you're like, oh, I can't fit it in my car. Listen, I'm Hispanic, but I'm not that Hispanic. Use common sense. These things, they're super portable. I mean, I can barely fit myself on one of these. They are super portable. They will fit in a car, but it's a bigger sedan, okay? Not a Kia Rio. But if you're looking for a small portable system that has big power behind it, this is it. If you're gonna do a school dance of 1,500 people, no, this isn't it. If you're looking for bass that's going to rattle everything off the walls, no, this isn't it. But if you're doing weddings, if you're doing rentals, corporate events, smaller school dances, this is a great system. It's a great system that's affordable, that's lightweight, that you can set up by yourself, and that you don't need a 16-foot trailer. You like it. I was very impressed. Most importantly, I love the fact that this has 2 amps, your Class D and your Class AB. I love the adjustable range over here where I can tilt it down 7.5 degrees. It's awesome. You're gonna love it. If you have any questions or anything, guys, leave them in the comment below. My name is Arnaldo Hoffman of Gear It First. Thank you again. Remember, it's the PreSonus Air15 and the Air-18S. You guys have a great day, good night, and God bless.